Next game on the schedule for you and I, number 7 Kentucky at number 14 Ole Miss. That is a noon kickoff, and it's fascinating because there are numbers involved. You know I love my statistics. Let me get this one out. Kentucky's last win at Ole Miss came in 1978. Ole Miss has won its last 12 home games in a row, and this is the first time that Kentucky and Ole Miss have played each other when both are ranked since 1958. Geoff, knowing all this history is coming to the forefront, how do you expect this one to go?
Wow. Last year, Kentucky relied a lot on their offensive line, their run game, right? We saw how successful they were and has not been the same this season. But Chris Rodriguez should be back this weekend, their star running back. He had 27 rushing touchdowns last year, almost 1,400 yards. And because they've been bad. They've been bad. They're 125th in rushing yards, 120th in sacks allowed. Like, I'm surprised, even if their running back's not there, I'm surprised to see the lack of rushing success, the lack of explosive plays, and the amount of times that Will Levis has been hit. And he has been the offense so far, 1,200 yards nearly passing, some more to count with his legs a little bit here. So to me, if Kentucky can get their run game back, that limits the opportunities for Ole Miss to get on the field with their offense and use it to their, to their ability, which we know they're going to run the ball. They're going to find plays in the RPO game, and they're going to try to tempo you to death, right? But if they can't do that, they're not on the field, they're not as good at doing that, obviously, right? So to me, I think this game comes down to if Kentucky can get their offensive line back playing the way that they expect them to play with the run game, they will have a chance to win this game. If not, eventually the defense will break and Ole Miss will score enough points to win this game.
I don't think that's too far-fetched at all, Geoff. I think you nailed it there, especially with the emergence of Chris Rodriguez. We don't know what he is, right, because he hasn't played yet, but he is 2021's SEC leader in rushing, full stop.
Yeah.
And Will Levis has been the offense. He had, I believe, all of 3 passing games of 300 yards or more last year. He's already hit that number in the first 4 games of the season, even as he's been hit a lot more. They're a little bit more two-dimensional as opposed to one-dimensional last year. Mark Stoops' defense is always going to be Mark Stoops' defense. But I watched a bunch of Ole Miss last week. Why? Because the University of Tulsa played at Ole Miss, at Vaught Hemingway, and I have a vested interest in the University of Tulsa. Now, the thing to take away from this is that Jackson Dart was used to exploit the Tulsa defense in a way that I don't know that I feel comfortable if I'm play calling, because you're having that dude run out in the open field and you're having him getting waylaid. So much so that referees were pulling aside Golden Hurricane players and saying, hey, look, you can't hit him when he's doing that. It's like, well, hey, he's running at us. What do you want us to do?
Yeah.
All to say, you can run tempo and you can run your quarterback, and then you're going to have to go play Kentucky the next week after he's been bloodied and banged up by the University of Tulsa. Add in there, TU scored 27 points in the first half and only didn't score any points in the second half, wins that game 35-27. I think that Ole Miss is right for the picking here, and the University of Kentucky is going to continue to make us look good as being one of the 2 teams that I think can challenge Georgia for the SEC East title, the other one being Tennessee. Oh, did I say something that got your attention there?
No, I think Georgia was kind of BSing against Kent State. I don't know, and maybe I have some PTSD from week 1, but good luck playing them.
We'll see. I'm looking forward to those matchups. Next on the schedule for you and I, number 2 Alabama at number 20 Arkansas. I believe that this is going to be ridiculous because, all right, Geoff, what if I told you that Arkansas is a good football team, even borderline great football team? They happen to just play in the SEC West. But because that is true.
That's exactly what's happening.
They also haven't beaten Alabama since I was a senior in high school.
Yeah, that's like, what, 50 years ago? Is that
It's 2006. And even then, it's 24-23. So they've never beaten Nick Saban, whoever the head coach is at Arkansas. They came close last year, 42-35. In a game that a lot of people gave Arkansas some respect for that hadn't before because of how closely they had played the team that we all thought was going to win the national championship. So knowing that you have all this history on Alabama's side, how do you expect Arkansas to play against Alabama? Do you expect them to pull out a win?
So there's talk this week about, people being upset. At least I've seen, I don't know how, of course, the internet, you never really know, about people like questioning Alabama's defense. Have you seen that a little bit this week?
Yeah.
Just like,
Will Anderson getting chippy out there too, saying, how dare you step on the field goals?
I know that's pretty fun, right? The motivation of players. But I look at this, and they're second in the country in points per drive and in yards per drive. And I get it. The first half against Texas was shaky when Quinn Ewers was in there, but that's been it so far, right? And so you can make the argument that Arkansas is easily the best test that the Alabama team has had in a while. And I definitely think for Alabama, we're seeing, just over the years, they've lost so many weapons on offense. And it's just hard to replace those guys. I get they're 5 stars replacing 5 stars, but it takes some time for young guys to get in the swing of things. So Bryce Young is not as comfortable offensively, and then generating those explosive plays as he has in the past. But RJ, Arkansas gives up a ton of explosive plays. So if you're looking for a game for Alabama to break out, this could be the one where they do that. And I don't think Arkansas has the dudes over 60 minutes to win this game. We'll find out obviously on Sunday, but I'm skeptical of that. I like Sam Pittman, former offensive line coach. Like, I love everything he's about, but I think over 60 minutes, there's not enough in the tank for them to get this. If Bama plays their A game.
I've never been more thrilled about a head coach at an SEC school than I am about Sam Pittman. Full stop, right? I love
He's great. I love it.
Yeah, he's outstanding, and he's been able to keep a staff together that I also think wants to win. That said, I also think he's got the dudes to run with Alabama, but it's about whether or not you show up to the big team in the big moment. They didn't against Georgia last year. They got embarrassed by we came to find out is one of the better defensive teams that we've seen in the last decade.
Yeah.
But you're also going up against some history that I think is hard, which is to say only Tennessee and Alabama, aside from like a Vanderbilt, right, have not beaten Alabama since the iPhone was invented in the SEC. It's full stop there, man. That's a lot to overcome. But if anybody can get it done this season, hell, Jimbo Fisher got it done last season. Jimbo Fisher barely beat Arkansas off of a dunk and a field goal point. I mean, we're celebrating after the field goal.
It's worth pointing out too that, this year, the toughest game Bama's had so far was at Texas, right?
Right.
We saw last year, the toughest game Bama had, really two of them were at Florida and at A&M. And so I think there is something too, going to Arkansas this weekend and playing in front of that crowd, and maybe your offensive weapons just quite aren't the same, and battling through adversity. And so I think there could be upset potential here. But again, the hard part about playing these teams like Bama, man, is you gotta do it for 60 minutes. I remember playing USC back in 04 and 05, right? Those teams we played at, like we were up at halftime, and then we weren't up at halftime very quickly. It was like you can play well for a while, and those great teams know how to play those 60 minutes. And Arkansas might not be there quite yet.
I'm with you, but we'll find out. I hope this is the year. I'm pulling for the pit boss on this one. Next one on for us is number 10, North Carolina State at Death Valley to play number 5, Clemson. I put out a poll on the Twitters asking folks, which team do they think is most ripe for an upset? Alabama, Clemson, or I believe Michigan is the other team I put out there. And most folks pick Clemson. Are you picking Clemson for being ripe for an upset?
You think it's an overreaction from playing Wake, who has an exceptional offense that you don't see very often. It's kind of tough to defend. I don't know. Does NC State strike you as having that offense? They played like two teams really worth. I mean, they played East Carolina. Their strength of schedule right now is 106th. East Carolina, Charleston Southern, Texas Tech, and Connecticut. And they scored 27 points against Texas Tech. So that's really about all I think you can take forward. I just don't know if they have the offense. And I think we knock on Clemson's offense. And yes, they have at times this year shown themselves to be not as good as we thought, but they score a bunch of points, RJ. Like by the end of the game, you're looking up and you're like, oh, okay, they got 48 points. They're in the 50s. Like they're better than I think we give them credit for. I think it's gonna be tough for NC State here. I kind of feel like Clemson got their scare last weekend, and they're at home this weekend as well. I think Clemson puts it together, and NC State just has a tough game moving the ball.
DJ Uiagalelei is better than we've given him credit for, but he also is the number 10 player in the class of 2020. So I don't know how better he can be than we give him credit for it. And he went off 371, 5 TDs.
Yeah.
He has to do that again against North Carolina State because the defense is as good as Clemson's defense, and Devin Leary can sling it. I like North Carolina State in that game. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.